Hey there, thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. Always great to see you. It's now 3 p.m. in the East and 12 p.m. out West. I'm Veronica Cruz, and welcome to Scripps News Live. So the recent back and forth between House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden shows that the two are still at odds over the U.S. debt ceiling. McCarthy unveiling his debt limit plan that includes $4.6 trillion in cuts. President Biden rejecting the proposal as, quote, a MAGA economic agenda and wacko notions. He's been warning the nation risks a catastrophic economic default if lawmakers can't come to an agreement soon. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed updates us on the standoff.
Well, that plan for Republicans is known as the Limit, Save, Grow Act of 2023. While it does raise the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion, Democrats say it has too many poison pills to earn their support. The bill would raise the debt limit by $1.5 trillion to prevent the U.S. from defaulting on its obligations, but it would limit government spending, reducing spending to 2022 levels, and then limit growth of spending to 1% per year. It would also claw back unspent COVID aid, repeal Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act, including reducing funding for the Internal Revenue Service, and reverse President Biden's student loan cancellation. It would also pass the House Republicans' energy bill aimed at increasing production of fossil fuels. And Kevin McCarthy is touting this bill as an important bargaining chip to show where House Republicans currently stand in these debt limit negotiations. He also hopes it can bring Democrats back to the table in order to continue those negotiations.
The American people have elected a divided government. And our government is defined compromise. That's why the House, the Senate, and the White House should be negotiating a responsible debt limit increase right now.
And while President Biden has made clear he's already opposed this legislation, it's not immediately clear whether this bill would have the votes to make it out of the House of Representatives, let alone the U.S. Senate, where the Inflation Reduction Act was Democrats' key significant achievement in the last Congress. It'd be unlikely they'd be willing to vote to repeal it.
Speaker McCarthy's wish list is an extreme step in the wrong direction. It heads us in the direction of default. With the default approaching, Speaker McCarthy yesterday capitulated to the MAGA right and rolled out a partisan wish list masquerading as legislation. This MAGA wish list has no chance of moving forward in the Senate, and it doesn't move us any closer than we were yesterday to avoiding default.
And House Republicans have already left D.C. for the weekend. It's not yet clear the next time that President Biden plans to sit down with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The possibility from this bill, though, is that it could potentially bring Democrats and Republicans closer back to the negotiating table. Democrats have been very consistent and clear. They want to raise the debt limit with no preconditions and no cuts. At this point, Republicans say they're not willing to go along with that.
All right, Nate Reed reporting there. Thank you so much, Nate. And we're following some developing news out of Washington as well. The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee asking Chief Justice John Roberts to testify before the committee. According to the letter sent to Roberts today, Senator Dick Durbin asked him or another Supreme Court justice, who Roberts might designate, to testify about ethics. It all comes in the wake of a report from ProPublica that detailed luxury vacations Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife took that were paid for by mega donor Harlan Crow. Thomas never reported them. Congressional correspondent Steph Liebergen live for us in Washington. So, Steph, the ProPublica report raised more questions about ethical standards for Supreme Court justices. What can we expect here? Could this hearing finally lead to some answers?
Well, Democrats, Veronica, have been very frustrated by this recent reporting about Justice Clarence Thomas and really adding some fuel to the fire for some members who were already calling for some kind of ethics reform for justices on the Supreme Court. So in a letter from the Senate Judiciary Chairman Dick Durbin earlier today, sent to Chief Justice John Roberts, really saying that he specifically wants to talk to Roberts about the ethics that exist for the Supreme Court and possible reforms to those ethics rules. The letter makes very clear that the Chief Justice would not be expected to answer questions from senators about any other topics, and the hearing would stay focused solely on Supreme Court ethics. And so even though Justice Thomas is the one that's really the focus of a lot of the frustration right now, earlier this week, Chairman Durbin addressed why he thinks John Roberts is the right person to answer questions about the issue. Take a listen.
Well, of course I would like to, but I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to discuss the agenda and program But what we called on Chief Justice Roberts to do is to accept the responsibility at the court. As Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, he has to understand that Clarence Thomas's conduct is absolutely unacceptable from an ethical basis. To restore the integrity and the reputation of the court, they have to do something. An investigation followed by a change in the approach on ethics.
Now, it is rare for a sitting Supreme Court justice to testify before Congress. The last time it happened was actually in 2011 when then Justices Scalia and Breyer testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. At that point, they were talking about the role of judges under the U.S. Constitution and within America's democracy. No word yet from the Supreme Court on if Roberts would testify himself, if he would send another justice in his place. But the hearing, according to Chairman Durbin's letter, is set for May 2nd, Veronica.
All right, we know that you're going to be keeping track of it all for us. Stephanie Liebergen reporting live from Washington. Stephanie, thank you. So parts of the central U.S. picking up the pieces after another deadly tornado outbreak. The National Weather Service investigating more than a dozen tornado reports across Kansas, Iowa, and Oklahoma, where 2 people were killed in the city of Cole, just 25 miles south of Oklahoma City. Workers at a Papa John's nearby described hearing that storm as they huddled together inside of a freezer.
There was like a lot of commotion. People were starting to get a little frantic, and I was like, it's okay, calm down. There's 3 feet of concrete. We're good. This is the safest place to be on the block. And then it got, like he said, really loud and really crazy. And then it started to get calm, and actually my front door flew open, and it was like flapping in the wind.
And the threat of serious storms like that one not over yet. Today we are closely watching conditions that could produce large hail and dangerous winds and could spin up more tornadoes in Oklahoma and in northern Texas. Scripps News meteorologist Scotty Withers has the latest now on the storm track and the timing.
Yeah, the search and rescue still underway out there. The sheriff's saying that there is a 10-mile-long strip of destruction out there, debris knocked down on top of all of those shelters that people run to for safety. So they've got to remove that shelter, get the people that are trapped out. Then they'll have a better idea of just how widespread the injuries and the fatalities could be. We're also learning that Oklahoma Baptist University now says that they've had significant damage to their campus. The good news, no serious injuries there. To listen to the damaging that started first with hail, this massive hail, baseball-sized hail falling just outside of Oklahoma City to the south, and right behind it, the tornadoes. Watch as this one just rips across. This is one of about a dozen that hit those 3 states, Kansas, Iowa, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, obviously, the most devastated. From the air, you can see the damage in the small town of Cole, which is just about a half-hour south of Oklahoma City. The houses and the buildings there are just knocked down. This is where the search and rescue crews are looking right now for survivors. But we're not done. On the National Weather Satellite, you can see the storms are now moving to the northeast, heading into Missouri. They're going to make a beeline further into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes states later today. We've had tornado watches and warnings on and off throughout the day. We're going to get more of those later today. But the big problem is the severe weather alerts for the south, the lower Mississippi River Valley, and Texas. You can see on our severe weather alerts here, 50 million Americans in that risk zone from East Texas all the way up through Arkansas into Missouri and up into parts of Illinois. Later today into tonight, we're looking again at heavy rain, powerful hail, strong winds, and unfortunately, likely to have some tornadoes spinning up. Now, the severe weather moves tomorrow, and it's not going to be as bad. That's the good news. But by Friday, we're going to have another round of severe weather along the southeast Atlantic coast.
All right, Scotty, thank you so much for that. We are now learning new information about the damage from that devastating tornado that ripped through parts of Mississippi last month. According to the state's insurance department, insurance losses are now approaching $100 million. Uninsured losses are expected to increase that number as nearly 3,000 claims are still open. The March 24th tornado severely impacted the rural communities of Silver City and Rolling Fork. It destroyed nearly 300 homes and businesses in Rolling Fork, and 13 people were killed. You can find deeper dives on all of these stories and more online. You can check us out at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, it is expensive to hit the road, but new numbers out show that millennials and Gen Zers are ignoring economic trends and they're traveling anyway. And that could add up to trouble for their financial future. That's next.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-379-8435.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. 800-379-8435. That's 800-379-8435.
But it wasn't the photos and it wasn't the video that changed my life. It was understanding the stories behind them.
You know, when you're ready, I'll have your baby for you. Like something that was meant to be.
There's good to it, there's a lot of bad to it, but that's life.
It worries me.
Brotherhood to me is everything. We've opened up a whole new world.
If you have already started planning a summer vacation, then you know that the cost of travel right now is high. Government data shows airfares in February were 27% higher this year than the same time a year ago. Rental car prices have skyrocketed 37% in the past 4 years. But those costs aren't discouraging young people from seeing the world. A survey by the Vacationer found that 87% of 18 to 29-year-olds and 90% of 30 to 44-year-olds are planning to travel this summer. And that is despite inflation, credit card debt, and the possible resumption of student loan payments. Dan Geltrude joins us now. He is a CPA and the head of Geltrude & Company, an accounting and financial advisory firm. Hey, Dan, great to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Hey, Veronica.
Dan, tell us what you're seeing on the economic front right now, because a Federal Reserve report found that the rate of credit card delinquencies did rise significantly for people in their 20s and their 30s. So what's going on here, Dan? Are these age groups budgeting? And if they aren't, why not?
There's no doubt that the amount of debt that young people are taking on is significant. Now, we have to wonder why they're doing that. Is it because they believe that they may not have to pay it back? Or is it a devil-may-care attitude to say, hey, listen, I'll worry about that down the road? But any way you look at this, Veronica, at some point in time, you gotta pay your bills. Now, does that become the wake-up call? Because with interest rates rising, specifically hitting credit cards, the amount of money that's going to be owed when you factor in the interest is going to be sky high. So I really hope that young people enjoy your vacation, but realize what's going to come after that. It's going to be a big bill with interest.
Yeah, and speaking of interest accruing, Dan, there's been a rise of these buy now, pay later services. I think Klarna is one of them. And I know that there was a poll out there, a Harris poll, which found 50% of millennials 44% of Gen Zers are using these services. What do you have to say about this? Because, you know, to your point, they are accumulating debt.
They really are. And you know, sometimes I say maybe they have it right? So you try to watch all your pennies and be careful and do everything the right way. And in the meantime, maybe you're skipping those vacations and some of the other enjoyable things in life because you want to have that emergency fund or saving for retirement or whatever the case may be. But again, I say here, if you're going to buy now and pay later, no matter what it's for, including, you know, things like DoorDash, and these young people are really terrific about ordering food out or eating out as opposed to making your own meals. Well, again, when those bills become due and you can't pay them, you get caught in that cycle that's very difficult to get out of.
Yeah, no one wants to get caught in that cycle. You know, Dan, there's so much uncertainty right now in the market. How would you tell younger people to invest? I mean, what can their parents say to them, and where should they be putting their money right now? Because, you know, the stock market is rather scary, and lots of people are looking at it and going, I don't know, I'd much rather just spend it and take a trip.
Well, listen, there's certainly a lot more pleasure in saying I'm going to go on a trip. However, the return on investment there is not good at all. What I tell young people is put as much money away for retirement as you possibly can, because you need time for that to grow. And when you're a young person and you're looking at retiring 30, 40, or 50 years from now, you know, you could really have a nice nest egg for yourself. Now, that's hard to see, but what I say is when you put that money away for retirement, you never actually miss it, right? If you're in a 401k, it gets taken out of your check, so it's not in that net check. But that, of course, what comes before that is you got to make sure you get rid of your debt, because if you have credit card debt and you're paying 18 or 20% interest, forget about retirement. Get rid of that first, because, again, you get in that hole, you never get out.
No, you're absolutely right about that. So what do you see coming down the pike then, Dan? I mean, is there an economic downturn coming? And if so, what do you say to this demographic in particular? How will it impact them?
Well, I do see ahead that there's going to be some tough times. The way the Federal Reserve is heading with continuing to raise interest rates, that impacts everyone and everything. So based upon the path that they're on, we're going to see that continuing. Now, higher interest rates generally slow down the economy. So you don't know if that job you have right now is going to be there in a month or two. So you have to start to think of the rainy days that may be ahead. And again, that's hard to explain that to young people sometimes, but that's really what it's all about. You have to protect yourself in the long term.
Yeah, you're right about that. But Dan, come on. I mean, at the end of the day, what is your best advice here? Are you going to tell people to save up for that rainy day, or do they take that trip? You only live once.
Well, listen, there's nothing wrong with taking a trip, Veronica, if you're going to budget it out and say, I'm going to take this trip, here's how I'm going to pay for it, and then after that, I'm going to figure out how to get on the right track. It's kind of like what you do right before you start a diet. Yeah, enjoy yourself, eat away. But then after that, you have to get back on track, because a life is not a sprint, right? It's a marathon, and you have to pace yourself for that.
There you go. Start with a budget. Start with a budget. Dan Geltrude of Geltrude & Company. Dan, always good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, the doors are open to a second Apple store in India, but the tech giant is facing challenges as it eyes expansion in the world's most populous country. We'll be right back.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
That's all.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but The front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Wow, okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there's a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
Even one child hungry is one too many. Yet right now, millions of kids across America don't have enough to eat.
Did you have breakfast today?
Enough to help them grow, focus in school, and fuel their dreams. You can help end child hunger in the U.S. Join your neighbors and support No Kid Hungry today. And help ensure that every single kid gets the food they need to learn, to thrive, and to achieve brighter futures. With just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you can help provide free, healthy meals and snacks to kids in your community and across the country.
In the United States, a lot of people don't see our country as being a place where people are hungry. But in communities like ours, where poverty is such a big issue, it is an issue.
No child should ever go hungry, but schools and community groups that feed kids don't have enough resources. We can help. So please call or go online now and join us with your $19 monthly gift. Use your credit card and you'll receive this No Kid Hungry t-shirt to show you're part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives. Food is health. Food is energy. Food is love. So let's make sure every child has the food they need to succeed.
If you're going to give, it's a place where you can know that your dollars are really doing something important. You know, you don't have to wonder, is my money really being used?
Your kindness and generosity will help feed boys and girls in your own backyard and across America who don't always know where their next meal is coming from. So please, call this number or go online to helpnokidhungry.org to feed hungry kids today.
Hey there, welcome back. As Apple shifts its business from China, it's opened its second store in India. New Delhi correspondent Ishan Garg looks at the challenges that Apple faces in a market that is dominated by budget smartphones.
With 2 new stores, Apple now controls its entire value chain of products from manufacturing to retail in India. It's been a long wait both for Apple and for the fans, but now many of them are coming out here in hundreds to get that Apple experience firsthand. This craze is just another sign of Apple's growing popularity in India. Its products were considered out of reach up until a few years ago due to their high price tag. Even though they are still unaffordable for many, the company's sales are growing. In the latest fiscal year, Apple has made $6 billion from sales in India, which was up about 50% from last year. And this boom in sales comes off the back of Apple increasing its manufacturing in the country as well. With the rift between US and China growing and amid numerous supply chain challenges, Apple is now reportedly making 7% of all iPhones in India. In 2021, it was estimated at just 1%. That is because India has a rapidly expanding consumer base. According to United Nations recent estimates, India has now become the most populated country on earth, leaving behind China. And its economy is set to expand to $10 trillion by 2035. So it seems like a good time to bet big on India. Analysts say the government's lucrative investment policies and a major push for domestic manufacturing have given the country an edge over its neighbors such as Bangladesh and Vietnam. Still, despite the fanfare, analysts say the company could struggle to compete with rivals like Samsung, Oppo, and Xiaomi in this price-sensitive market. Tim Cook says the company is working on financing options for its users here, including the option to pay in installments and lucrative trade-in offers. Many people say if the iPhones become affordable, they could dominate the Indian market. And Apple hopes they will, especially for first-time smartphone buyers. But for those who are still on the fence, maybe a visit to the new Apple store will do it. Ishan Garg, Scripps News, New Delhi.
Check this out. The EW Scripps Company just announced a multi-year deal with the WNBA to air regular season games Friday nights on ION. Starting May 26th, you can catch more than 40 games over 15 weeks. Some games will be available nationally, others regionally. And this is the first sports deal for Scripps. Quick note right here, EW Scripps is our parent company. Up next on Scripps News Live, the grandson of the man accused of shooting a 16-year-old twice for ringing his doorbell is now speaking out, and it's not to support his grandfather.
I was disgusted. I thought it was terrible. Myself and my family stand with Ralph Yarl and seeking justice.
And lawyers for the Yarl family also pressing for hate crime charges. We'll have the details after this.
At Omaha Steaks, we do burgers differently. We take a premium aged steak like this and turn it into a pure ground burger like this. So this is actually a ribeye. This is a New York strip, top sirloin, beef brisket, and this is a filet mignon. For a limited time, our Burger Perfection flight comes with 20 big, juicy burgers, all for just $79.99, plus free shipping. Get it today at omahasteaks.com/TV. This is Burger Perfection, guaranteed.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan cannon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Workers' comp can crush a small business. Every year it would jump 5, 10, 15, 20%, even though there was never any claims. And that's where I was struggling as a growing business. I'm very happy that I moved over to Pi for my workers' comp. From start to finish, it was extremely easy. They quickly came back to me with a plan that was affordable for me so that I can grow my company while not breaking the bank.
Ask your agent or get a quote at easyaspi.com.
You know how your car insurance rates just kind of creep up? Experian compares your current car insurance coverage with over 40 top providers, and it's tailored just for you.
I just saved over $900.
When it comes to car insurance, we do the work, you save the money. Free at Experian.com/car.
This is Vadim Karashalov, call sign Cargo.
How many combat missions have you been on?
77 combat missions. One of those missions, search and destroy 5 Russian suicide drones. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, it is now nearly 1/2 the hour. Veronica Cruz. Welcome back to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Thursday. It's time now to get you caught up in the day's top stories. Well, parts of the central U.S. picking up the pieces after another deadly tornado outbreak. A dozen tornadoes ripped across Kansas, Iowa, and Oklahoma last night. 2 people were killed in the city of Cole, just 25 miles south of Oklahoma City. Authorities are now reporting a 3rd death in Oklahoma. The National Weather Service says that more potential tornadoes are expected today in the region. In Washington, the White House and congressional Republicans remain at odds over the debt ceiling. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy wants to return discretionary spending to 2022 levels. He also wants to limit spending growth to 1% a year for the next decade. President Biden says the debt ceiling shouldn't be tied to a spending bill, and he warned that defaulting on the national debt would be a big mistake. In other news at this hour, digital media company BuzzFeed closing its news division and trimming its workforce by 15%. BuzzFeed CEO also said that there will be cuts in business, content, tech, and administrative divisions. BuzzFeed made another round of cuts back in December. It also owns HuffPost, which will for now remain operational. A lawyer for a Kansas City teenager who was shot after going to the wrong house to pick up his siblings wants the case tried as a hate crime. Lee Merritt is the family attorney for 16-year-old Ralph Yarl. 84-year-old Andrew Lester pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree assault and armed criminal action yesterday. Prosecutors say he shot Yarl in the head through a glass door and then a second time in the arm as Yarl lay on the ground. Lester told investigators he feared for his life, but Lester's grandson isn't buying it.
I'm really sad that this happened. He didn't need to do this. This didn't have to happen. He didn't need to be scared of a young kid coming to his door at night. It's absurd. He needs to get his paranoia, and this isn't just for him too. A lot of people in the world, the paranoia and atomizing the society, it's going to lead to some really bad stuff.
Yarl is a member of the Staley High School Jazz Band, and it is performing a benefit concert for him at the school tonight. In the meantime, civil rights attorney Ben Crump is now representing Ralph Yarl, and he spoke with Morning Rush about this case and a couple of others making news this week.
The family of Ralph Yarl wants simple justice. They want accountability. The fact that you have this young black man be shot in his head and then shot towards his chest, and thank God his arm was blocking his chest, or we might have a different story today other than this miraculous story of his recovery. But it does not take away from the fact that this 84-year-old white citizen, for reasons that nobody can articulate, felt the need to shoot him through the glass door, even though there were no words exchanged. He rang the doorbell. He was going to pick up his little twin brothers. And the fact that this gentleman who shot him said in the probable cause affidavit, and don't you ever come back around here again. We don't know what other things he said in the statements, but it was enough for the police detectives and the prosecutor to conclude that there were racial components involved in him shooting this young man point blank range twice. And so therefore, we want to make sure that people are not profiling our children just because the color of their skin. And I want to also say that we're equally outraged that the 2 young white women, one in upstate New York and one in Texas, who were killed just for driving their cars in the wrong spot. One was killed, one is in critical condition. But they were both shot too, inexplicably, because they simply made a mistake with the location they were trying to find, and yet these people shot them. This mentality of shoot first and ask questions later is something that we have to grapple with, America. Other than that, we have just innocent lives being taken on a daily basis.
Attorney Ben Crump talking about the Ralph Yarl case. He is also representing the family of Tyree Nichols and is now explaining why they filed a $550 million lawsuit. Defendants include the city of Memphis and the former officers who were involved in the beating. Those officers were seen on video punching and kicking Nichols. Other defendants are emergency personnel called to the scene who were videotaping and not tending to Nichols' medical needs. Tyree Nichols died 3 days after the beating. In Alabama, gun reform advocates are saying that a shooting at a Sweet 16 points out a need for stricter gun laws in the state. 2 teenagers and an adult are charged with 4 counts of reckless murder. Prosecutors are saying the teens will be tried as adults. More charges are expected. The Alabama Moms Demand Action chapter estimates that 94 Alabama kids a year die from gun violence, and the group says permitless carry passed in Alabama, even though all 67 state sheriffs were against it. Coming up next, we're going to take you to Juarez, Mexico, where thousands of migrants are growing frustrated, trying to seek a new life in the U.S., how a faulty app and COVID-era policy have been complicating the process. After this.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
That's why.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but the front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Wow, okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there's a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
Hey there. Hey. Hey there, how are you? I'm with Disabled American Veterans. I was wondering if you had a quick minute to thank America's veterans for their service and sacrifices.
Of course, why not?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Sure.
All right. Hey, well, come on in here. I'm just going to hit record on this.
I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't even think of the words to say of how grateful I am.
I just want to tell you guys how much you appreciate it.
But most importantly, I want to thank you for your courage and bravery. Wow. Just thank you.
Someone here who'd like to say something to you.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
Someone has something they want to say to you.
Goodness, how's it going? So I just want to let you know how much you appreciate it. How much you appreciate it.
I just feel honored for everything you've done.
Thank you for myself. Thank you for everybody.
I get to live every day, in peace because of you.
A lot of people thank us, but we want to take the time to thank you, honestly, for giving back. And when you give to DAV, you are supporting veterans like Dave, myself. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
You can say thank you to our nation's heroes by calling the number on your screen right now and giving your monthly support of only $19.
Say thank you by going to helpdav.org right now and give just $19 a month. When you do, we'll send you this DAV blanket as a thank you and a reminder that you support those who served.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right now. Your support says thank you to our nation's disabled American veterans.
Biden administration staring down a key immigration deadline. In just 3 weeks, on May 11th, Title 42 is set to expire. And that means border agents will no longer be able to expel asylum seekers quickly under a COVID-era policy. National correspondent John Moen went to Juarez, Mexico, where thousands of migrants have been waiting and hoping.
Arepas and cafecitos are not customary Mexican snacks. The vendors hawk the Venezuelan cuisine here in Mexico in the Ciudad Juarez Cathedral Square, thousands of miles from their homeland.
There is not plenty of shelters. They have no money. They are staying on the streets.
They are stuck in one of the most unsafe border cities across the Rio Grande, Juarez, Mexico, near El Paso, Texas. They would prefer to be in the United States.
They want to pursue the American dream. They want to go to the United States. They don't want to stay in Mexico. And that's understandable. Who wants to stay in Mexico if there is a lot of violence?
In the last 10 years, Mexico transformed from being a country where refugees headed to the U.S. traveled through to a place where refugees may have no other choice than to stay. The UN says there are more than 87,000 Venezuelans in Mexico seeking asylum, in addition to thousands from other Central and South American countries. The Hope Border Institute says about 3,000 refugees are in shelters scattered through Juarez, a fifth being kids under 18. That figure may not count the hundreds of others camping out on the streets. Scenes like this are extraordinarily rare. Tears of relief and blessing himself in thanks, Venezuelan refugee Julio Yanez just got an appointment through a U.S. Customs and Border Protection smartphone app so that he may seek asylum in the United States. More often, asylum seekers face a daily frustration with the app called CBP-1 and say it needs more than divine intervention to work.
Hay algunos que le llega la foto, pero la foto le rebota y nunca llega a terminar el proceso, pues siempre. Son solamente un minuto que le da uno para hacer todo ese sistema.
These men told me that the CBP-1 app seldom opens, and when it does,
Y a veces toma el rostro y tampoco abre la página.
it only works for minutes at a time and shuts down. Since the app launched in mid-January, Customs and Border Protection has processed more than 75,000 CBP-1 appointment requests. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection official tells SCRIPPS News that the agency is aware of the problems and has worked to fix them as they arise, also adding they're aware that demand is high and that appointment slots fill up fast each day. Some people fed up with waiting make a run for it instead.
Quédese, no se mueva. Manos aquí, manos aquí. Entrelazca los dedos. Entrelazca los dedos. Vámonos. ¿Cuánto tiempo tiene viajando? ¿Hace cuánto salió de Guatemala?
Casi 40 días.
¿40 días?
Sí.
Ok. Bueno,
Mi familia ya no tiene comida, no tiene maíz. El maíz está muy caro allá, por eso venimos. Ya no tenemos solución.
Spanish is not the first language of these indigenous Guatemalans, but they said they left home more than a month and a half ago because of climate change and punishing poverty.
The federal government wants to ensure that people applying for asylum are doing so and crossing at official ports of entry. For people that are trying to cross between those ports of entry, you can see here, because of state law enforcement involvement and the National Guard, that their options are being winnowed down.
They all get transported to one of our facilities. We take the fingerprints, again, make sure there's no criminal history, and if there isn't, they get expelled back to Mexico. Again, because of the flow that we have, the numbers that we're seeing, we try and do this as quick as possible just so we keep the number of people in our facilities down.
¿Por qué vienes a los Estados Unidos?
Porque donde yo vivo es frontera también y está muy peligroso. El año pasado, pues exacto, empezó un pleito entre carteles de narcotraficantes de allá y acá.
Alita only wanted to be identified by her first name and did not want her face to be shown.
Pero no me lo han dado. O sea, yo intenté, siendo sincera, es la tercera vez que lo intento, pero no me han dado el asilo.
Scripps News was with the U.S. Border Patrol when agents detained her and her 2 children. Groups of migrants crossing into Santa Teresa, New Mexico are spotted easily with high-tech cameras. The migrants are processed and expelled back to Mexico under Title 42 authority. That is the pandemic-era public health order that allows federal agents to send them across without considering an asylum claim or affording other due process under immigration law. Federal agents expelled almost 88,000 migrants along the southwest border in March.
One of the possible consequences was not being granted their asylum claim if they do so in an improper and illegal manner.
The Biden administration is also considering jailing migrants who continuously are caught trying to cross illegally.
We don't really know what's going to happen. We wouldn't be surprised if May 11th comes and Title 42 is not lifted.
Human rights advocates say they don't see much daylight between President Biden's border policies and those of Donald Trump.
Unfortunately, we haven't seen anything come out from the Republican or the Democrat. As a matter of fact, if anything, Reagan was Republican, and he came out with the amnesty.
Do you find it to be political expediency or political cowardice?
Yeah, I think it's both. And so under one administration, like the Trump administration, they make it really painful. So think of something like family separation. And under a Democratic administration, like the Biden administration, they might turn that dial of pain down a little bit, but they're using the same strategy, which is just make it painful for people to cross.
Critics say no matter what pain is inflicted to prevent crossing, people will come.
Well, there are about 100 million vulnerable people on the move right now. And since the Second World War, when we started counting, there's never been so many.
Because there's a global violence crisis.
¿Buscas asilo en los Estados Unidos?
Sí, queremos que Estados Unidos, por favor, pedimos en el nombre de Dios Todopoderoso al señor presidente Biden que por favor nos abra las puertas.
Which doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon, and in the springtime, crossings always increase. John Moan, Scripps News, Juarez, Mexico.
And coming up next on Scripps News Live.
I'm Joe St. George in Washington. Will lawmakers in our nation's capital do anything this year to address the high cost of childcare? Well, major change is unlikely. Some small changes are taking effect. We explain how big the ripple effect may be. Next.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
There's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. And checking your credit score or bank statements may not be enough to alert you. That's because identity threats appear in more places than you realize. Identity thieves can use your information to open loans, transfer home titles, even commit crimes.
Someone stole my information and tried to buy a car in my name.
LifeLock monitors for threats to your identity, including ones you may miss, and alerts you if there's an issue. And if you're a victim, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All plans backed by LifeLock's $1 million protection package, including reimbursement for stolen funds.
I know LifeLock has me covered.
LifeLock, identity theft protection starts here. Call the number on your screen or visit lifelock.com/25now and use promo code 25now to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Could planting a tree a day keep climate change away? Well, potentially yes. ITL is looking at the planet-saving advantages behind planting trees. In the Loop tonight at 9/8 Central, only on Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. First-time jobless claims up last week, increasing concerns about a weakening economy. The Labor Department reporting new unemployment applications rose to 245,000 for the week ending April 15th, and that's around 5,000 more than economists were predicting as claims continued edging up over the past few weeks. In the meantime, laid-off workers in several states are accusing the struggling big-box retail chain Bed Bath & Beyond of cheating them out of their severance pay. The retailer has been closing stores across the country since late last year and laying off thousands of workers. Now, some former employees in New Jersey and several other states say that they have not received promised severance pay. There is no federal law on this type of employee separation pay. So it's a debate that's been underway now for years. The high cost of childcare and the push for change. Last year, Congress failed to pass a bill that would have helped offset the steep price that most families pay. National correspondent Joe St. George has more on a controversial policy change in the CHIPS and Science Act.
For the first time in my reporting career, I'm doing a childcare story as someone who's actively paying for childcare. My wife and I just made an initial deposit on daycare. Our firstborn is due in July. It doesn't matter, though, if you're a reporter, a doctor, a teacher. The high cost of childcare probably has you wondering if the government's ever going to do anything. And while major changes are unlikely in Washington this year, some minor ones are taking effect. Minor changes that could have a big ripple effect. To find these changes, it helps to break something. See this? A chip? That's where Washington is starting to make changes with childcare. To understand what we're talking about, it helps to recall when President Biden signed the CHIPS and Science Act last summer. That legislation invests billions of dollars into computer chip and semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are estimated by the White House to eventually be created. Fast forward to today, the Department of Commerce is beginning the process of deciding who should get the money. And it's on page 3 of the department's fact sheet about the process that a unique policy emerges. It says any applicant requesting more than $150 million in funding must provide a plan for access to affordable, accessible, reliable, and high-quality childcare for both facility and construction workers. On Twitter, the Secretary of Commerce made clear affordable childcare is a big requirement.
I think it's rethinking what childcare looks like.
Allie Lemaster doesn't have any plans on working in the computer chips industry, but she is a recruiter in the private sector for an automobile company in Florida. She says what the Department of Commerce is attempting to do is already happening in the private sector. Her company helps pay for her child's daycare. Bright Horizons, a national child care provider, tells Scripps News more companies are offering child care perks, just like they would health care or a 401k. Lemaster says her company's relationship with Bright Horizons saves her around $300 a month.
If I've got my child here, I'm going to think twice about leaving this organization because not just moving myself, I'm moving my child.
Whether or not the Department of Commerce's child care requirement encourages more private companies to offer assistance is still very much to be determined, but it's clear the requirement is creating controversy. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who voted for the CHIPS Act, called the provision part of a, quote, union agenda. Senator Mitt Romney, the Republican senator from Utah, told the AP last month what President Biden is doing by jamming woke and green agenda items into legislation we pass is making it harder for him to ever get legislation passed again. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
And coming up next on Scripps News Live, a special night for a pair of Oklahoma teenagers could have ended in disaster. How the kindness of strangers helped save a high school rite of passage. Also, SpaceX's anticipated launch of its giant new rocket went off without a hitch, but moments later it hit an explosive snag. We'll have the details next.
How does Klein & Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein & Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein & Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein & Spector.
There's a 71% chance you could be overpaying for car insurance. That's why Experian has a new free tool that could save you money by finding you our best deal. And it works. Experian users saved an average of $900 per year.
Go to Experian.com/car and stop overpaying for car insurance.
Attention all eligible Medicare beneficiaries. If you're on Medicare, you can now get COVID-19 tests sent to your home every month at absolutely no cost to you. That's right. Get up to 8 at-home COVID-19 rapid antigen tests delivered directly to your home for absolutely no cost, including free shipping. Just call 800-610-0265 now to get your COVID-19 tests delivered to your door at absolutely no cost to you. Don't get caught without your no-cost at-home COVID test. Just call 800-610-0265 right now to get your COVID-19 tests delivered right to your door at absolutely no cost to you. Just call 800-610-0265 right now. This Medicare program provides easy access to request at-home COVID-19 tests at no cost. If you're on Medicare, call 800-610-0265 right now and request up to 8 at-home COVID-19 tests each month delivered to your home at absolutely no cost to you, including free shipping. Call 800-610-0265.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan cannon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Seniors in suburban Tulsa, Oklahoma are grateful to 2 strangers and a police officer. The teens say the Good Samaritans helped get a special night back on track after an incident that could have derailed the entire evening. Shay Smith with SCRIPPS News Tulsa has the story.
Alexis Norman and Mackenzie Pruitt are both seniors in high school. On Saturday, the girls spent their day getting ready for Norman's senior prom.
This year's prom, the music that they played was a lot better than last year, so it was really fun.
Around 8:30, the girls headed to Bixby's prom. But on the way there, as Pruitt was taking a left turn, a woman tried to pass them in a no-passing lane and crashed into them.
We kind of both just sat there in shock and sat there in silence for I'd say probably 20 or 30 seconds, just sitting there what the heck just happened?
The girls say a couple stopped to help them after the wreck.
And they were really our guardian angels. They were able to be there when our parents weren't able to be there, and they stayed with us the whole time.
Bixby police responded to the wreck, and thankfully the girls were not hurt, but they were missing prom until Officer Smith stepped in.
Officer Smith was such a blessing to us. She offered to take us to prom afterwards when she realized we were on our way to prom, because we were in our prom dresses out on the side of the road.
We thought she was joking, because she was do you want to get in my car and take a ride? And we were what? She was do you want to? And we're yeah, of course.
The girls made it to prom and were able to spend an hour there with their friends, but they say those who helped them out, like the couple who stopped and waited with them, and Officer Smith who drove them, were true blessings during their unexpected turn of events.
They just really helped to be there and just make us feel at ease. So I would just say thank you so much for just doing that for us.
Yeah, and I'd just like to let them know that they really were a blessing to us, and that God placed them there to help us.
Oh, Officer Smith and that Good Samaritan. Way to go. That was Shay Smith reporting for us from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And before we let you go, SpaceX officials probably are crossing their fingers for a successful launch of their Starship rocket. The new mega rocket did in fact blast off this morning, but check this out. It exploded just minutes after liftoff.
This does not appear to be a nominal situation.
Everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake.
Yikes. Yeah, this was a scene in Texas when the Starship exploded just 4 minutes into flight. Luckily, no one was on board that rocket. The test flight was supposed to complete a full orbit around the Earth. Now, SpaceX plans to use Starship to send people and cargo to the moon and Mars. And despite today's failure, CEO Elon Musk was tweeting that it was, quote, an exciting test launch and that he learned a lot for the next test launch in a few months. Nope. No, thank you.
Nope.
Not